if you look back and remember when you first started your bird photography, the first thing that you wanted to do was find birds and then get out in the field and get as close as you can to the bird photos. And quite often you wouldn't be thinking about your photography techniques too much. You'd be just making sure the sun's behind you, the bird's in front of you, and you can get that beautiful detail on the bird. And there's still a place for that in our photography. I'm not saying that you should always be out there doing all these different things with your photography. But if you start to get an understanding of light and shadow, I think Sidelight is a great way of exploring that. And there's still a place for sun behind you, bird in front of you, and your shadow in front of you, and you get beautiful detail on the bird, just like this orange chap that I'm showing. And you can see he's on top of the sandfire. He's got something interesting happening with the bugs in his bill, and he's moving around. So I really enjoyed taking those photos, and the colour of the bird was so striking, and I think the light behind me was the best way to show that. And I have tried different light techniques on the orange chap, particularly the male, who is orange, and didn't really work. I didn't really like what I was getting. Whereas with the female, she looked quite nice in the backlight. So, you know, you'll find sometimes when you're out in the field, certain factors make a difference. And it's all about you making decisions while you're out there if something's working for you or not. I can tell you what to do and give you some inspiration on to try it, but don't be afraid to move around and try some different things. And I'll just show you a couple of more photos that I've done in with the sun behind me, and you can see that they're really great photos, great shots that you can put in your portfolio. So don't discount that. And sometimes when you see a new bird for the first time, that's the style of shooting that you'll probably want to do. On the screen, you will see this diagram of backlight, and then you will see the side light where I've got a picture of a lady at each end there. That's where the position of the sun in relation to you standing and taking photos with the subject in front of you. And what you do is, if you look further down, you can see where the backlight comes into play. You can change your angle going down that a little bit in either direction, so you don't have to, you know, you've got a little bit of play in how you shoot. And I've shown this picture before, but it's such a perfect example of side light. The bird's in front of you, you've got the sun to the side of you, and it's looking directly at you. And this is the sacred kingfisher, which I captured in Mandurah, and he's looking straight at me, and you can see that line where the light starts to blend into the shadows, and it's done beautifully because that's taken in quality light and it's low light, so the sun's not strong, and that is a beautiful way to take a side lit photo. But there's a lot of variations in side light. You're going to be surprised with this image that I'm showing of the great egret. This was taken in low light, and the sun's just popping over the horizon, and that first bit of light is starting to hit the bird. And if you look carefully at the photo, you will see the shadows, but it's very light because we're shooting in low contrast. And if you look at the plumes on the tail feathers, you'll see snippets of golden light starting to show. And what is happening, it's low contrast side light, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful to get that. I'm absolutely fascinated when I get this type of photo. And then as the sun keeps coming up, the light gets stronger, and then you start getting more contrast in your image. Photographing birds on water, reflections are influenced by the shadow cast by the bird, and it can either be darker or brighter, and that depends on the angle that you're shooting at. Generally, with the light behind you, your reflection will be brighter. I've got a photo here of a brush bronzewing that I took in Mottled Light. And how that happened was that the bird was down a pathway and the trees' shadows falling all over the path, and there were these patches of light. And I waited for the bird to get into the light. I wasn't concerned about getting the whole bird in the light, but I definitely wanted the head, and I was hoping for a little bit of the iridescent feathers would also be hit by. I had to wait for the bird to get into a pocket of light, and it's a really interesting way to shoot, and never disregard any type of light. Stop and look at it and figure out if you can still get a shot. Harsh light is when the shadows on anything really, on your bird, on the ground, has a hard line to it as the light gets stronger, and soft light has a graduated feathered drop off, and it looks beautiful on birds. You don't get that harsh line in the shadows, and the light and shadows sort of blend together, and it's a beautiful way of shooting. And if you can get out and get that, I think you'll really enjoy your photography when doing that type of photo, because then you start to see the possibilities of different types of photos that you can take. I'm just going to show you this video of a Narkeen night heron, and you can really see the side light, and when he turns his head, how his whole head goes into darkness.